Munich is the most livable city in Germany, but also the most expensive. Finding an apartment is hell. Students sometimes pay even more than 1,000 euros per month. Bruh. And you don't want that, right? Right. To find the best tips for you, I went to university and spent hours asking students how they find housing in Munich.
That's even smaller than my room.
It's really tough. But I don't have any other option as well.
It's terrific. Finding a place is difficult than managing with your studies.
And in this video, I will share with you all of the wisdom I gathered so that you can find the best possible accommodation. This is gonna be a long one, but trust me, it's worth it. We will start with the basics, so where to live and which options you have. Then I will give some tips for the most used platforms in Munich where you can find the most offers. After that, I go into more niche tips and approaches which have fewer offers, but also less competition, and therefore a potentially higher chance of a successful apartment search. At the end of the video, I'll share some smart tips of students I interviewed that are both simple and effective. Some of those tips were also new to me, and I wish I had known these when I was apartment hunting. So you should definitely stick around till the end of the video to give yourself the best chance of finding your dream apartment. This is a map of Munich. The main campus of LMU and TUM are here in Max-Vorstadt. And in the blue area, there are most of the places for students. But also, the blue parts here are the more expensive ones. Obviously, you're paying more in the city center where all of the student life is going on. Now, the choice of where you want to live depends on where you study. For example, if you study at the main campus of TUM, the best places to live are along the U2 subway line shown here, because it takes you directly to the university. By the way, I actually drew this. I mean, not the map, but the subway line. Are you proud of me? I'm proud of myself. But if you study at LMU or TUM Campus Garching, which is just located outside of Munich, the best places to live are probably along the U6 subway line. You guessed it. I also drew this. Isn't this amazing? But don't worry if you find another place, because public transportation system in Munich is very good and you can use the subway, buses, trams or commuter trains. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Next, we will look at what housing options you have. We start with the dorms. The universities do not provide dorms, but there are dorms that are either run by the Munich Student Union or private dorms. There are 11,000 dorm rooms, but Munich has about 120,000 students, which means it's hard to get a place in a dorm. Dormitories are usually the cheapest options, but they have long waiting periods, which means you sometimes have to wait up to 5 semesters to get a room after you apply. So the most important thing here is to apply as soon as you get accepted by university. And don't just apply for your favorite dorm. You should apply to as many dorms as possible. In the description of the video, you'll find a link to the Munich Student Union, as well as an overview of different dorms. Special tip here, check out the private dorms, because even if you don't get a permanent room, you might get a sublet. And once you're in, you can meet a lot of people in the dorm. And since in private dorms, the students oftentimes decide on who gets in, it makes it easier to get a permanent room for you. And if you can't get a sublet, you should definitely go to dorm parties to meet some people. Next, we're gonna talk about a shared flat. A shared flat, or WG as it is called in Germany, is the most common form of living for students here. I myself live in a WG and I love it. In the best case, you live together with friends with whom you can cook, do sports, study, and just spend your evenings. You just have to make sure that you get along well, because otherwise it will be a horrible experience. If you don't want to live with other people, you might want to look for a studio apartment, even though it's not common in Germany and also more expensive. If you want to rent a whole apartment, which might be the case if you are already working and the landlord decides for you, he usually wants to see something that shows that you are actually able to pay for the apartment. In Germany, there is something called Schufa-Auskunft or Schufa Information, which is the largest information provider on creditworthiness of private individuals in Germany. But also your income of the last few months or maybe your working contract might help here. But this is only the case if you really want to rent a whole apartment. If you are a student and just want to live in a shared flat or something, it's usually not required. Finally, there are fraternities, which you will probably recognize by their super spacious and luxurious houses with low rent and which are shared amongst many students. Even though it's cheap and it sounds quite good, you have some obligations to the respective organization, which is quite time consuming and often involves, at least in my opinion, drinking way too much beer or sometimes fencing with outdated equipment according to the fraternity tradition. I think everyone can make their own picture of it, but I personally wouldn't recommend it as the first thing to move in when you come to Germany. Now, let's have a look at how you can find accommodation. If you want to find a dorm room, you should definitely check out the website of the Munich Student Union. The website is in English and you can find a lot of helpful information there. There are also many different dorms listed there that you can apply for. I have included a link to an overview of possible different dorms and their respective waiting periods. If you're not looking for a dorm, but rather for a WG or a studio apartment, there are two main websites here, WG Gesucht and ImmoScout24. Both platforms are unfortunately only available in German, but I think they're quite intuitive. You enter Munich, a city, choose between WG, one-room apartment or house, and click on search. Then you're shown the different offers and you can send your application. Besides the most two common ones, there is eBay Kleinanzeigen. eBay Kleinanzeigen is a less used platform. There are not as many offers as on the other platforms, but definitely have a look. Maybe there is something for you. If the landlord has provided a phone number, you should try to reach him directly. And this should be obvious, but beware of scams. Never pay before you have the keys. Don't pay if you haven't had a chance to view the apartment, and so on. Another way to find accommodation is through social media groups. Especially Facebook and Telegram can be very helpful here. And you can find some Facebook groups that I came across in my research down below. But same as with eBay, beware of scams. To save you some time, here's a rapid fire of tips. In the last tip, I will go over how to write your application, which is probably the most important tip in this list, and I'm excited to share it with you. TUM offers accommodation assistance and also has a private housing market. If you don't study at TUM, look at your university's website if they offer a similar service. Lower your standards and apply to any offer that is within your price range. Quantity is the key here. Munich is expensive and you should not expect to find something nice for a cheap price within a short time. Start looking as early as possible. It can take several months. If you find something you would be happy with, but the rent starts maybe 1 or 2 months before you want to move here, just take it. Rather pay 2 more months of rent than ending up in an apartment that you don't like, or maybe with people you don't like, or in a more expensive one where you have to pay higher rent for the next 3 years. If it doesn't work out from abroad, come to Munich to look for apartments. When you're in Munich, you can visit apartments in person, which increases your chance of getting accepted. During the search, you can maybe stay with friends or at a hostel. Tell every single person you know that you're looking for apartments in Munich. Use your Instagram, use your Facebook, use your WhatsApp. Tell just everyone you know that you're looking for apartments. I also found 2 of my 3 apartments in Munich through friends of friends. When visiting the flat, make sure to come in person, and I don't know why I haven't thought of this when I was apartment hunting, but if you can choose a time slot for visiting, take the last one. If you're then vibing with the tenants, you can just stay longer because nobody else is coming after you. You could also bring some cake or maybe a beer to show that you care. Okay, the next one is super important. Set yourself notifications so that you get an alarm as soon as a new offer appears on the market, and then just apply as fast as you can. Read the newspapers. I know, it sounds outdated, but that's why you should do it. Because only few students look there, and older people who maybe don't know how the internet works will put their offers there. And typically those offers are also on average cheaper than the ones you find on other platforms. There is a newsletter called Voloho that you can subscribe to. I just came across it a few days ago. I haven't used it, I don't know, but like who knows, try it out. Apparently there is something where you can live together with senior citizens. Ask your parents if their company has a housing market. There's a dorm lottery organized by the Munich Student Union. You can use ImmoScout Plus and cancel it within the first 2 weeks without paying for it. So make use of it. Now we come to applying to offers, which is probably the most important tip. It will determine whether you get accommodation or not. I put a fake offer online for a day and read through over 100 applications. So now I can tell you how you should and should not apply to get housing. We will start with the do's and then get to the don'ts, which are so important. Just don't, please. Write a long text. I know, it's more effort, but it stands out. And you want to stand out, right? Right. Here's what you do. You write a text template that you can use for each offer, so that you can apply as soon as a new offer comes in. Speed is key. It should include who you are, what you do in Munich, your social media links so that they can stalk you, and your hobbies. This is especially important for WGs because your future roommates will decide for or against you depending on whether they feel you fit into the group or not. End a template by suggesting a way you could meet, such as you would love to drop by for a beer. And for convenience, add your phone number and email. Okay, you have the template. Now it's time to customize it. Let your future roommates know that you care about them. So address them right in the beginning by writing something like, "Hey Lisa, hey Luke, how are you?" Okay, I know this sounds obvious, but many people that apply did not actually do it, so I just wanted to make sure that you actually do it. There will be more specific tips in just a second, I promise, okay? Okay, let's go. Next, you read through their description. What hobbies do they have, and do you have something in common? If yes, that's gold. Put it into the application. Also answer any questions that they might have asked in the offer. And most important, be honest and authentic with your answers, because once you get invited, they will find out anyway, so just save yourself and them some time. If you're writing to a WG in German, use du instead of sie. You're writing to your future roommates and friends and not your professor. There were dozens of applications within the first 2 hours, so be fast. You want to be one of the first ones. Have a profile picture. It makes it way more personal. And a secret tip here, I added a small section on top of the application with the most important facts and then the actual text below it. By that, people can get an overview of me without reading through the whole text. And I don't know if it helps, but at least I got several invitations to apartments within a week. Lastly, some things you should definitely avoid at all costs, because otherwise you will not get an invitation at all. I will start an internship in Munich next month. I'm interested in your offer. Can you please give me your phone number? Don't say that you're interested in the room or that you need the room or that it's urgent. Like, no shit, every applicant needs a room. You don't get accepted because you need it, but because you are an interesting and nice person with whom your future roommates will get along with. I agree to every terms and conditions written in your description, or general statements like that. Just don't, please. Write instead what you have in common, what you could do together, what you value. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you and bye.